let's go over some of the basics of the UA Luna DAW as we create a little bit of a track here. So things that we're going to cover in this video are the very basics, like just getting it set up, creating a project, recording audio, creating tracks, working with Midi and editing Midi, adding effects plugins and instrument plugins, and doing a little bit of editing in the timeline. And then we'll mix things down to an MP3 so you can share your tracks with the world. So let's jump into Luna and do a quick setup of our audio interface. When you first open Luna, this should be the page that you land on, and you want to go over here to Settings, and it should be on the Hardware tab already. And you're likely not going to have this list of audio interfaces in here. You may have one or two, so just find the audio interface that you're going to be working with, and then you just want to click on it. So I'm using the Avid MBox Studio. I have that clicked. And another thing, if it doesn't say ASIO in here, it should by default. Then just click here and change it to ASIO. So you will need to install the ASIO driver for your audio interface. That's not the driver that gets installed by default when you first plug your audio interface in. You have to manually install the ASIO driver. So you go over to the manufacturer's website and you should be able to find the installer on there. And I'm using this very early on in the Windows beta. And one of the things that they've currently noticed that there's an issue with is in the I/O settings. It's not populating. So if you don't see anything in here, it's not because there's an issue specific to your machine. It's an issue with the beta, and they are working on fixing that. But your inputs will show up when we go to record some audio. So don't worry about that. Now, once we're done in here, let's just go back to the create page, and we're going to create a project. So I'm just going to name mine test. And you can eventually create templates that you can start with, but I don't have any created. You can choose the tempo. If you know right away what tempo you're going to be recording in, then you can choose that right away, but we can change it later. So it doesn't really matter if you do that now. You can also tap. So if you have the idea for your song in your head, you can just kind of tap that and figure out what the tempo is from there. You can change your time signature if it's something other than 4/4. And again, this is something you can change once you're in your project anyway. And you can choose the location of where you want to save your project. Now, if your computer has more than one hard drive on it, I do recommend saving your projects to the second drive, not the main drive that your operating system's on. It can sometimes help speed things up and give you a little more power for your DAW. So now let's just click create, and we're going to create this new project. Here we go. This is what it looks like when we create our first project. If you want, you can do a little bit of tidying up in here. We can go up to view, section, and you can see we can turn some things off like the browser. And that was that thing over there. We also have the focus channel, which was that little channel strip that was down to the side there. I do like leaving that on. So I'm going to put that back on. It's just kind of nice to have an uncluttered space to work with. And also these rulers up here can be turned on and off. You click here, you can see which ones are enabled. You might want to turn some of those off. I'll turn off loop. The time signature I'm not going to be changing, but if you have time signature changes, you may want to leave that enabled. And also the tempo, I'm going to leave it at 120. If you do tempo changes throughout, you may want to leave that open, but I'm just going to hide it. All this is doing is hiding it so you can open this up later on. I just like to have as clean of a workspace as possible to start with. So now we have our workspace here. And the first thing I want to do here is add a little bit of a drum beat. So when I record my audio in, I have a bit of a drum to record to and not just the metronome, but I will show you that in a bit. So we're going to create an instrument track. So we go up to track, new instrument track. So I'll click on that. And now we have this new instrument track right here. It doesn't have an instrument on it yet. So Luna uses VST3 plugins. So if you have any VST3 instruments, Luna will automatically find them because VST3 plugins all install to the same folder on every system unless you change that for some reason. But Luna knows where to look for them. So we want to click on the plus sign under instrument. And then that's going to bring up the choose plugin panel here. And we can go by category or favorites if you've chosen some favorites. but I'm just going to go by category. And the one that comes with Luna is this shape. So I am going to choose that, but you can see I have a bunch of other instrument plugins installed on this computer, so you can use whatever ones you have installed. So let's just go with shape because everybody's going to have that. And we just double click on it and it's going to load into our instrument plugin. And now we can close this down. I want to load up a drum kit in here. So I'm just going to click on this area here, which is the preset area. And you can see it opens up the preset viewer over here. So I want drum kits. I'm going to scroll down here and here we have drums. I think for this, I'm going to actually try this vinyl hip hop kit. So I'll just click on that and we can close this preset window down. And there's a few ways that we can work with MIDI here. We can draw it in using our mouse, which is what I'm going to do for this specific instrument. We can record it in with a MIDI keyboard, or we could also use our computer keyboard as a MIDI keyboard. So if you go up to the workflow area here and click on this icon, that brings up the MIDI workflow, and we can turn on MIDI keyboard. Click there, and now my computer keyboard is a MIDI keyboard. So I could record with that if I want, but not for this instrument. I may do that later. Right now, we're just going to draw some MIDI information in. And working with MIDI in Luna is very interesting because you don't start out with adding clips or anything, and there's no separate MIDI view. We just do it right on the track. So I want to expand this so we have a bigger track to work with. And you can just hover your mouse in between the tracks like this, so you can see that up and down arrow, and then you just click and scroll down, or you can change all of the track sizes by going up here, and we can go to extra large, and that's going to change all of the track sizes. And then when you want them back to the normal size, you can just go back there and they're the normal size. But let's just go to extra large, and now we can start drawing in some MIDI. But what we have to do first is figure out what drum is what in here. So this is your piano roll. So I think I like this kick drum right here and this snare. So to start drawing MIDI in, you have to hold down Control on your computer keyboard, and you can see now it's a pencil. And now I can just click in here and you can see it's drawn a little piece of MIDI information and it's created this MIDI clip now. And if I wanted this note to be longer, like maybe if this was a keyboard type of instrument, I could just hover over the edge of the note here, and you can see it's changed the cursor. Then I would click and drag, and I could extend that out. Now, I want to zoom in a little bit, so I'm going to hold down Alt on my computer keyboard, and then I'm going to use the wheel on my mouse to scroll in. We'll just do that. And let's just listen to this quick. All right, so we just have the kick drum, and then we're going to put in a snare right here. Again, hold down Control on your computer keyboard. And now I put this in the wrong spot, I think. So if I hover over it, you can see the hand. If I click and drag, I can drag it over to the next cell there. All right, so we have a kick and snare. Let's listen to that. All right, now I want to add in some hi-hats. So I just got to find the hi-hat in here. We can scroll down with this little scroll bar over here. There's a hi-hat, so I'll draw that in there. All right, so now I've reached the edge of this clip, but I want to continue on with it because I want to add more stuff in there. If I go down to the bottom of the clip here, into this yellow section, and it might be a different color on your computer, but for me it's yellow, you can see that the icon changes, and I just click and I can drag this to make it larger. So now I want to finish drawing in my hi-hats here, and then I'm going to add another kick drum, actually two, and another snare. And I might add a kick right there. All right, I gotta put that into the snare. Let's listen to what we have so far. That is perfectly fine for what I'm going to be doing on this track. So I'm going to resize this again to medium, the default size. There's our clip, but I may want to extend this for at least 2 more bars. So I'm going to hold down Alt on my computer keyboard, scroll out a bit with the wheel on the mouse. Now, if I want to duplicate this, I can click on it and then press Control D, and you can see that's created a duplicate right after this one. And I can keep doing that over and over, and it's going to create more and more duplicates. Or I can hold down Alt on the computer keyboard and then click and drag, and that's created a duplicate. Whatever works best for you. And your typical Control Z undoes stuff. Control C will copy, Control V will paste. So we could do that as well. We can click, Control C, and then click over here, Control V, and we've duplicated it that way. So we have a little bit of a track starting to happen here. Now what I want to do is record a bit of a bass guitar over this drum beat, and I'm going to record an actual bass guitar. So we're going to record audio into Luna. And the way we need to start this is go up to Track, New Tracks, because this is an audio track. Instrument track is for Midi. And then we have this new track window here. So you can see we want audio. You could change it to instrument, or you could add a bus this way as well. I only want one, but if you were adding multiple at the same time, you could change the number there. This is a mono source that I'm recording, so I do want that. I can give it a name now, so I'll just call this bass. And you can see in here, we have a tape emulation. The free version of Luna comes with Oxide. I own the Studer A800 plugin. That's why you can see that one there, but by default, yours will probably be on Oxide or none. So you can choose whatever you want in here, either none or Oxide, or if you have the Studer or their other tape emulation, that will show up in there as well. Console, that again is one of their plugins. If you have it, you can turn that on in there. I don't have that one, so I'm not going to. And now we just click OK. And we've created this new audio track called Bass. And one thing you'll notice is when we switch between tracks, it switches this focus channel over here. So we go back to Bass. And this is an overview of our channel strip in the mixer. So you're just focusing on this one channel for whatever track you're clicked on. Also, your main output. You can click on that and see the channel for that. Now I'm just going to grab my bass guitar, get it connected, and then we'll start recording some audio. And one thing you might need to do is change the input that your instrument or microphone or whatever you're recording is connected to. So on my audio interface, I'm actually connected to input 1, but if I was connected to one of my other inputs, I would easily click on that. So if I was connected to 2, I would click on that, but we're just doing 1. So click on that, then we can close this down. Now what I need to do is arm this track for recording. And you'll notice right now, you can only hear that through the microphone. But once I arm it for recording, I can hear it through the computer. Another way we can do this is with the input monitoring. So if I enable that, I can hear it through the computer and I'm not armed for recording, which means I can actually hear it while I play back. If I was just armed for recording and I did a playback, you can't hear the bass going through the computer that way. Now, the next thing I'm going to do before I start recording is work with the metronome a bit, and that's right here in this click section. So you can see 1, and what this means is there's 1 bar of count in. So it's going to count in by 1 bar before it actually starts recording, which is very helpful because you want to click record and then you need to get ready to record. So it gives you a little bit of time to do that. But if we wanted to change that, we could right click on it and you can see there's different count in numbers. There's 1, 2, or 4. So you could change it to whatever works for you. Or if we want, we could click on it and now it's not yellow. That means it's turned off altogether. But I like 1, so I'm going to click on that. You can also change the level of the click. If you find it hard to hear over other instruments, you can turn it up, or you can bring it down if it's too loud. I'm just going to leave it there. And then we need to enable the metronome. I do like to have that enabled when I'm recording, so I'll click on that. And another thing to note is about your levels. You want to make sure you set the levels on your audio interface. Your audio interface likely has some sort of meter on there. So you want to adjust the gain on the audio interface until it's a decent level and it's not clipping. You don't want to use the fader in the software to adjust your levels. You can do that later in the mixing, but right now we're recording. So we want a nice strong signal going in, and you would do that on the audio interface. And now to record, we want to make sure that the cursor is at the point where we want to start recording. Then we click record, and you're going to hear that 1 bar count in. All right, so we have our bass guitar recorded, and you can see the recording went beyond this MIDI clip. If I wanted to tidy that up, I could just go to the edge here, click and drag, and now it's in line with that other clip. Not necessary unless you're going to be recording more after this point, then it can be necessary. But let's go back to the beginning here. We'll listen to what we have so far. I'm going to unarm the track for recording by clicking here. I'm also going to turn off that metronome. Okay, so we have a bass in there, but maybe I want to add an effect on that bass, like a bass amp sim. To do that, we make sure we're clicked on the bass track, and then we can go over to our focus channel over here and click on the plus in the insert section. And this is going to bring up all of our effects plugins that we can add. And I have a lot on this computer, so I'm going to actually use the search bar up here to search for it. But you can also see we have categories that we could use to search. But I'm just going to type in here Ampeg, and there's my Ampeg. So I'll double click that, and it loads up our bass amp sim. So let's hear what this sounds like now. And if I want to A/B on and off, I could use this little power button up here. And that toggles it on and off. Or if I hold down the control key on my computer keyboard, I can go over to the plugin over in the insert section here, and I can click with control held down, and you can see that's now bypassed it. If I do that again, it's going to enable it. So that's another way you can do that. You can also right click on it over here, and you can see we can disable it. We can remove it altogether if we want. And there's some other things in here that we can do. But for this video, we're not going to concentrate on those other things. We just want to add an effect on here. We now have a little bit of a track coming together with our bass and our drums. Now what I want to do is add a little bit of keys to this. So I'm going to create another instrument track. And I'll call this one Keys. All right. And then again, we click on the instrument plus symbol there. I'm going to add shapes again. Close down the browser. And let's just find a simple preset in here. Maybe an organ. Here we go. Let's try this. That's fine for this track. All right, I'm going to close down that user interface, and I'm going to arm this track for recording. And like I showed you before, I could use my computer keyboard if I wanted. Because I have that enabled up there, but I'm going to use my Midi keyboard. And I didn't have to do anything to set up my Midi keyboard in Luna. It just detected it and it works without having to click on things in settings or anything like that. So we're armed for recording. I'm going to scroll back here, go to the beginning, we're there, and I'm going to hit record. And we can go in here, expand this so we can see how I did. And you can see there's some parts where I was a little bit off, but I actually don't mind that because it gives it a little more human feel. But there's some parts that I'm off a little more. You want to click in here to make sure you don't have everything selected, and then click on the note, and I could drag it to the beginning there. Now, if I wanted to quantize all of this, let's just scroll out here. I will select it all like that, and then I can click on this Q right up at the top here. And that's going to bring our quantize menu open. And you can choose where you want to quantize it, quarter notes, eighth notes, that can be dotted if you want. Maybe I'll go with eighth notes. And you can see it's brought everything nicely in line here. And now all of our playing is right on the beat if we wanted it perfect like that. We also have some other settings in here. We can add a little swing to it. We can change the strength of this and watch the notes when I do this. You can see it's brought some of them off the actual beat, maybe to give it a little more human feel. You can do the range, and then you could click quantize to quantize however you want. Now, maybe you recorded with your computer keyboard and everything is the same velocity, or you drew it in like I did these drums up here, and maybe we want to change around the velocity a little bit. So I'm going to make that the same, and then I'm going to expand this one now, the drum again, and we're going to look at the velocities. So we click on this button here, and we now see the velocities that we can hold down Control on our computer keyboard again, and click in here, and we can kind of draw them in like that if we really want to. So let's just give this a quick listen back. Let's say we're happy with that and we just want to do a little bit of mixing to this. We can switch from this screen, which is our edit window. We can go to our mix window, and you hold down Control on your computer keyboard, press the equal sign on your computer keyboard, and now we're at the mix screen, which is our virtual console in here. And it's laid out like a mixer. This is going to be your volume levels for each channel and your main channel over here. Then you have that tape emulation in here, and you can see you can collapse all of these too, which is nice. So I'm just going to leave this like that for now. We have some other things that we can do up here. You can change the instrument from this view if you really wanted to. You can add MIDI effects if you want, but we're not going to concentrate on any of that. We're just going to do some quick mixing. So this one here called instrument, it's actually our drums. Let's name that drums. Let's add a quick compressor on there. So I click on the plus sign and the inserts, and in here I'm going to go to categories, compressor, and let's see what I've got in here. I'll just use this one real quick. Double click on that. Now, Luna does not come with a compressor or an EQ or anything like that. You're going to need to download some plugins. There's lots of free ones out there, so don't worry about that. So here's a compressor. We can dial that in quick. All right, let's just say I like that for the sake of this, and maybe we need to do a little bit of levels though. All right, that's not too bad. Maybe I want to pan the keys. So because this is a stereo track, we have the two controls here, so I could bring the left over and kind of pan it like that if I want. Or if I want, I can right click on this and I can change it to simple controls. And then I just have this one control here. All right, let's say we like this. Everything looks good right here. And now maybe what we want to do is mix this track down to an MP3 so we can share it with our friends and fans and on all kinds of social sites. So let's just go back to our edit screen here. And you could do this from the mix screen as well if you want. I just always like to have it on the edit screen when I do my mix down. But we have everything ready to roll. Let's change our workflow from Midi to this one at the end here, which is our mix workflow. And maybe we want to do a mix down. So we click mix down here, and now we have some settings that we can change. So for this, I want it to be an MP3. So I'm going to click on wave and then go down to MP3. And we can change if we want it to be constant bitrate or variable bitrate. I'll just leave it on variable for now. Highest quality, yes, I want it to be the highest quality. You want to go into your sources, and then you could click off the main, because we want to do a mix down of our main output here. So I'm just going to click on main. Some other things in here you don't need to worry about right now. For this, we're just going to do basic. We're going to now click here to choose a location to save this to. And let's just say I want to save it here. Select folder. I'm going to hit mix down. And now I've got a mix down of this little track here. If I go to my window, I can see test main right there. Double click on that. Not too bad. Again, this was just going over the basics. And like I said, it doesn't include EQ or compressors or really any effects plugins other than the tape emulator that's in there. So you're going to want to add some effects in there for sure. And if you want some of the best free essential plugins to add to Luna, check out this video right here. If you liked this video that you just watched, please give it a thumbs up. Also, subscribe to the channel for more Luna tutorials that are on the way. And thank you so much for watching. For Audio Tech TV, I'm Zane. Keep creating. Fist bump. Thumbs up.